Oh, of course there is, and there's certainly strong links between pollution and even sinusitis and other issues because people start breathing through their mouth. So, but the way to get around that is just to keep using your nose as often as you can. This is our number one filter. I mean, this is it. It's our first line of defense. So even when you start getting stuffed up, I think it's important to be persistent about nasal breathing. You can use little hacks, little training wheels. You breathe right strips are good. Some sprays are good. Yeah. But I think to continue to breathe through your nose is, especially now, is really important. But all you really need is a teeny piece of tape.
Right.
Different people can do different things at different times, and that has its function, whatever you're comfortable with. But it's been interesting talking to Dr. Ann Kearney at Stanford, Berhenny, and other people who have been using this for decades. They've been prescribing it to their patients for decades. And seeing that kids with ADHD, once they start breathing through their nose, which means they're going to get better sleep, are no longer suffering from so many of the symptoms associated with those problems. And so if you look at the neurological functions, if you look at metabolism, all of these things are linked to the ways in which you breathe. And breathing through the nose is far superior than breathing through the mouth. And no one's arguing that. It's just, it's amazing how many people continue to habitually breathe through their mouths every single night. And I was one of them for decades. The more I went into this world, the more I started spending more time at Stanford with Jayakar Nayak, the chief of rhinology research, and right down the hall was Ann Kearney. And she's the one who really convinced me. She's like, I give my patients tape. She was a mouth breather for decades. And she was slated for surgery. And you know, she's going to have her nose drilled out, which can work fabulously for so many people. But she thought, I wonder what I can do naturally. She totally cleared out her nose and then looked into more research and found that the less we use the nose, the less we will be able to use the nose. So it's just like any other muscle. So she made herself more fit in that regard, and then has used that with all of her patients. Wow. And so that's what convinced me. And there's so many products out there, Somnifix, all these things work. So there's no judgment against them. If that works for you, that's great.
Totally.
I found, though, some people like this big strip of tape. I found that was unnecessary. The point is not to hermetically seal your lips off. It's just to train yourself so you don't go like this at night, which I do. Even years later, I still use this stuff every single night. I use a teeny piece of micropore 3M tape. Again, you can use anything, not duct tape, not Gorilla Tape, but teeny piece of tape with this really light adhesive. And I just put it on my lips.
Vertically?
Yeah.
You do okay.
Yeah, well, it's about the size of a square.
Right.
So and again, different things work for different people.
Yeah.
But I just put it on the lips because people say, you have a beard, I have a mustache, I can't wear this stuff. So when you take a breath in through your nose, you're forcing air to go through this labyrinth. So it goes through this very ornate structure of turbinates and various levels of them. And those turbinates are covered with mucosa, which is covered with mucous membrane, which is covered with, behind it is erectile tissue. So there are all these different structures in your nose. And by forcing air through your nose, you're slowing it down, which is good. You're pressurizing it, which is good. You're filtering it because our noses are also covered with millions and millions of cilia, which just grab particulate and other problems. And you are also increasing your nitric oxide, which interacts directly with viruses and bacteria. So we know that because, 15 years ago when SARS came around, they were exposing mammalian cells to nitric oxide and found that those cells would live so much longer in the presence of nitric oxide. A lot of people, when they hear this, they just drop the ball and say, I'm going to breathe through my nose all the time. I'm going to go out and run, do CrossFit, breathe through my nose. It doesn't work like that. You have to build this foundation and move very slowly. And one thing that Patrick McEwen and Anders Olsen and other breathing therapists have told me, they said, never work out harder than you can breathe correctly. So if your breathing is going to hell and your breathing is becoming dysfunctional, slow down, build that base, and slowly work back up. As Westerners, we want instant results for everything. Yeah. But sometimes things take time, and changing a habit that you've had for 30 years from mouth breathing when you're working out to nasal breathing can take some time. But we know that there's so many benefits associated with nasal breathing while you're working out, while you're sleeping, while you're at rest, whenever. This is the pathway through which we should be breathing air. So I thought I was pretty hosed in middle age. You hear about when you're developing, it's much easier to adjust your mouth, to increase airway size, to fix stuff, because your body is much more plastic, and every year you're developing more and more. Youth was decades ago for me. So I said, what can I do? And some dentists said, not a lot. You're pretty much stuck with what you have. But then others were saying, no, you can show huge improvements. So you can wear appliances that can broaden your palate, can increase your airway size vastly. But you can just chew food as well, and you can do oral pharyngeal exercises. There's this amazing study in CHEST where they had these people who had chronic snoring and sleep apnea, and they had them do 30 rounds of these simple exercises. Our tongue is this powerful muscle, and if we're not using it throughout the day, if we're just eating soft foods and it's just sitting there lolling around, it's going to grow out of shape just like anything else. So by exercising the tongue, you can help open the airway. And that paper really convinced me that there was something strong going on here. And yet, who hears about this? When you have snoring and sleep apnea, it's like, here's your CPAP. Oh, you snore. Yeah. Here's some drugs to put you to sleep a little further, which is going to make you snore even more, and your sleep quality is going to get worse. So, this isn't fringe research. That's what was throughout this book, that this was not stuff being conducted at some weirdo university.
No.
These are top institutions in top scientific journals, top researchers working on this stuff. And it just doesn't seem to be disseminated to any of us, not in academia. So if you're drinking a smoothie every couple days, that's good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Right.
Drinking some juice, that's fine. But if you're not chewing enough to really work out your jaw, especially when you're young, you're going to stunt your development in your airways, and that we know, and that starts with breastfeeding. So breastfeeding is a form of chewing. For 2 years, they've done so many studies with this. I mean, you're essentially pulling your face outward, and you're creating a wider palate, and that palate's able to drop, increases airway size, which is why people who have been breastfed have lower incidence of snoring and sleep apnea later on in life than those who weren't. Beyond airway development, chewing increases circulation to the brain, increases parasympathetic response. I mean, there's so many of these other benefits to it. It helps drain fluid from your sinuses. This goes on and on and on. I was looking at chewing just directly tied to, why are our mouths so messed up?
Yeah.
Why do I have crooked teeth? Why do we need braces? Why did our ancestors not need any of this stuff? And they all had perfectly straight teeth.
Right.
And the keystone to all of that was chewing. Well, we're told that when we get to adulthood, just like with airway size, the rest is immutable. So you're not supposed to be able to engage a skeletal muscle, a diaphragm. This was decades ago. They said you can't develop diaphragmatic motion. Okay, you can't develop lung size. Well, go take a look at freedivers, what they've done. I mean, some of these people have lung capacities of 12 liters, and they were not born this way. Right. So they were doing something to increase their lung capacity. In the Framingham study, which has been going on for 70, 80 years, and it was focused on heart health, they found that the most accurate marker of longevity wasn't genetics or what you were eating. It was lung size and respiratory health, which to me makes perfect sense, because if you're breathing 20,000 times a day and you're struggling to do that, you're just using these upper lobes. You can do that. Our bodies can compensate. We can get oxygen. It's just going to completely wear them down. An analogy I've used is imagine being in a car, and every stop sign, you're just revving and you're just idling way over the amount that you need to. All the structures in that car are going to eventually break down in the motor. And the body can be thought of in the same way. Why do you want to overwork your body to get less oxygen? That's what dysfunctional breathing does. So nasal breathing is beneficial also because it helps us take deeper breaths. And this isn't something like people, when I tell people slower, deeper breaths, there's so many known benefits to that. That's not, yeah, man, I feel it. It's to relax yourself and let your body do what it's naturally designed to do and develop that diaphragmatic motion. And another study I found that this was such a clear marker of longevity that one researcher went in and looked at people who had lung transplants and found that those who were given larger lungs lived longer, and those who were giving smaller lungs lived less than those giving larger lungs. So no matter how you get it, whether it's surgery or whether you do this yourself, there are clear connections between longevity and health and lung size.